Home Affairs Minister Dr. Motsoaledi believes a U.S. non-governmental organization is trying to use the legal system of South Africa to undermine and ambush the Republic's sovereignty. Motsoaledi has reacted to an order by the High Court in Pretoria that the government grants asylum to 22 Afghan nationals. We get you more detail on this. We're joined by the Home Affairs Minister Dr. Motsoaledi. Thank you very much, sir, for your time this afternoon. So in 2021, we saw something similar where some 126 Afghan nationals were denied entry into South Africa. And here we are again in 2023. A little bit of background as to how we got here this time around.
Good day, Dudu, and good day to the listeners and viewers. Indeed, I'm happy that you're asking for a background, because without that background, you may not understand. You may remember that in 2021, the Americans moved out of Afghanistan after having been there for 20 years. They then expressed their concern that people who were working for them as the American government for that 20 years may be victimized by the Taliban. And I remember very well them saying they will have to help them by giving them citizenship, permanent residency at least, in the U.S. So I thought that's a good thing. That's what people need to do. Little did we know that they're actually talking about us, because a few weeks later, we received a letter from a lawyer here in South Africa who's practicing somewhere in Rotterburg, who said she's acting on behalf of an American NGO. And in fact, in the letter, if you read it, she was informing us, and we wish to inform you that 2 plane loads are on the tarmac at the airport, waiting to come to South Africa. Please allow them in. And then it goes on to say, no, the NGO, the American NGO will pay for everything, you don't have to pay, etc. These people are, within 6 months, they will be relocated to the U.S., meaning that they are being vetted while they are still here in South Africa. Of course, we took serious offense to that letter. Well, the letter goes on to actually lecture us about international obligations and international conventions which South Africa is supposed to have signed, and our own law and all that, and what the Constitutional Court says, and how do they view these things, and what the United Nations High Commission of Refugees is saying. Basically, it's a lecture that if you didn't know, this is what the law says. Of course, we took offense, and we just ignored them, absolutely. Now, we forgot about that matter until on the 16th of March, that's last week, Thursday, when our officials, immigration officials at Beitbridge border post, received a letter from a group of lawyers. This time, very expensive group of lawyers. I'm saying expensive because of the location where they are.
Where are they?
They are practicing Melrose Act. Oh, okay. It's a huge, huge firm. They write us a letter with all the names of the partners, obviously, showing that, look, don't play with us, we are big. Telling us that, look, we represent 22 people. They don't mention their nationality. They don't mention their names. They just said, expect 22 people at Beitbridge border post. They are coming there to enter South Africa to apply for asylum. We request you to prepare a transit visa for them in terms of Section 23 of the Immigration Act, so that they can come and apply for asylum. While we're still shocked, what type of letter is this? Indeed, a bus arrived at Beitbridge border post carrying 25 people. 3 are Americans and 22 are indeed Afghans. And the American lady got out and said, look, we are coming here to apply for asylum. And the officials asked for whom? And he said, look, we've got 22 Afghan nationals here in the bus. And he said, bring one of them who understands English. Let's understand the story. So they brought the gentleman in, and he has got a passport. It's an Afghan passport. But when they opened the passport, they found that this person has been in Zimbabwe since the 20th of January. It's almost a month. And he has got an entry visa to Zimbabwe, to be in Zimbabwe with that entry visa. So we said, no, man, there's something funny about this. We're not allowing them in. That was Thursday. On Friday, they reappeared at the port, this time with a court order. That is instructing us to let them in as a temporary measure. In other words, it was sort of an interdict, and the return date of whether this must be made permanent is the 7th of March. Now, we were not in court. And we were surprised.
Minister?
Because we were not served. We didn't know that we were being sued. Then we discovered later the trick that was used here. The court case set in Pretoria, but the papers were served to a junior immigration officer in Musina, and it was served, Beitbridge, and it was served via email. He's a person who moves around the port because he's a supervisor. He discovered after 4 hours that he has got an email that is telling us to appear in court. And within that 4 hours, they had already gone to court to obtain an order. They showed the judge the stamp and said, we have served these people 4 hours ago. They are not responding. This is an emergency. People can be killed. They attach a document written in Arabic, which they say is, I don't remember whether they said it's a death warrant or a warrant of arrest for these people by the Taliban back home. It's not there's no interpretation of the document. We don't know its authenticity, but they did it. But fortunately, in the judgment, the judge also say while he's giving them this exemption, he is also, in terms of, in law, what they call rules of anticipation, giving us 24 hours to anticipate this 7th of March, meaning we can come and argue our case before the 7th of March. So on Saturday, there was a court case in Pretoria with a different judge. We presented our case, and because they were insisting that they want that order to be implemented, because we're not implementing it. And the judge agreed with us that we should not implement it. And then she will recall, she will bring forth the 7th of March to today. Right. So as I'm speaking here, at 4 o'clock this afternoon, the court will be sitting to hear what they could have heard in the 7th of March. Meanwhile, we still did not allow them in.
Yeah, where are they?
Well, we stopped them at Beitbridge. We understand the bus took them back to Harare.
So on the 20th of January, when they landed in Harare, is that when South African officials, when you got that letter from the lawyer in Roodepoort, you decided to send them back? When did you get the lawyers from? When did you get the lawyer's letter from Roodepoort?
16 February.
Okay.
Last week Thursday.
Okay.
So that's why when they arrived at the Beitbridge border post, we realized that they've already been in Zimbabwe for more or less 30 days, and we have to inquire from Zimbabweans, I must say. How did they come in? Why did you give them visa? They said no. They said they are on holiday. This is a visa on arrival. We gave them visa on... Some countries issue what they call a visa on arrival. When people are on holiday and they are tourists. So that's what we hear from Zimbabwean officials.
So this is also curious because they went to Zimbabwe as tourists, but when they come to South Africa, they're refugees running away from a desperate situation. What do we know about this NGO? Who are they? What is their interest in this matter? Why South Africa?
Well, they call themselves an American NGO. That's what they call themselves. Even when they were at Beitbridge and that they've paid for this bus and all that, that is what they call themselves. Let's just stop there, dude.
Okay, so it's clearly sensitive information there. We can't go more
into it. That is what they call themselves. That's an American NGO. I don't want to go beyond that.
Has any detail been provided about those people, those 26 people that are on that bus? Who are they? Who are they?
We have to demand what is called a passenger manifest when they arrived. And the passenger manifest showed that they are 25, not 26. The passenger manifest shows that the 22 are Afghans with their ages and all that, and the 3 are Americans with their ages also. And the Americans are on American passports. The Afghans are on the Afghan passport with a Zimbabwean entry visa.
Why South Africa? Is this unusual, what is happening at this moment?
Look, I think we're being targeted because there's a belief generally around the whole world that in South Africa everything goes. You can do whatever you want anytime. We hear quite a lot that they'll tell you that the constitution of South Africa and the laws, it allows everything and it's better to go there. Basically, it's not written anywhere, but that's what we hear. Because if we read the letter from this lady in Roodepoort, she was lecturing to us that these are your obligations. You have agreed on them. And so you must deliver. That's how the world view us. Because we have asked that question before. And you are right. Why cross so many countries? Come to South Africa. In court, which is something that is not in their documents. In court on Saturday, they told the judge that the people were in Pakistan and the Taliban followed them there and attacked them. And so that's why they have to bring them very far. And I ask, are you about to ask me then that I must invite the Taliban to come and attack you in South Africa? What security will you have in South Africa? What will the public say if we have people here who the Taliban are looking for without having the power to protect ourselves? Surely the Americans have got more power. They are the ones who moved to Afghanistan, not us. They are the ones who invaded that place. So why do they need us this time? They never even ask or discuss with South Africa that we are going to Afghanistan. Now that they've pulled out, we are the ones who must clean after them. I don't think that is fair.
In your interactions with the Department of International Relations in South Africa, what are those conversations like, especially reaching out maybe to the U.S. government? And do they know about this? Who is this NGO? Can they?
Well, this letter, which was written in 2021, it was actually written to the president and the copy to me and the Minister of DERCO, Dr. Naledi Pandor. So I discussed the matter with her, and we said this is nonsensical, and we rejected it. We didn't even ask the president or talk to him. We just said something like like this cannot be accepted. And no, I remember it looks like we did raise this in cabinet already after having said it's not acceptable. But look, they call themselves an NGO. NGO, so you can't rush to an American government and ask them, because NGOs form outside the realms of government. So it wouldn't have been prudent for us to go to the U.S. government and ask them, what is this? As I'm saying, that they call themselves an NGO.
So South Africa's position is that these people who are at the moment not in the country, stuck at some other border, will not make it into South Africa, in spite of whomever will sponsor them for however long.
Yeah, no. We don't think this is the case of asylum seeker or refugee per se. If it is true, the story that they've written there, that the Taliban is looking for them, what happened from 2021 when we refused for the first time? Where were they and what was happening? I mean, 2021 is a long way back. It was in September 2021 when we refused entry. So we just believe this is another trick.
So is this something that is happening for the first time in the country? Have we ever had an experience like this before, where another country's NGO will impose people from another country onto South Africa?
Yeah, no, I don't remember anything like that.
So this is
but
the exception
remember,
to the rule.
I only came to Home Affairs in 2019, but since that time, 2019, I don't remember anything of this sort, nor did I hear that before I arrived in Home Affairs, ministers were ever faced with this type of situation. To me, it looks like it's new.
How do we change that perception, and not so that you can satisfy other people, but maybe satisfy, because you are characterizing this as a threat to South Africa's sovereignty, to maybe allay fears among South Africans that indeed our Home Affairs Department has got us secured, of course working with other organs of the state?
Well, you might be aware that we launched the Border Management Authority. And since we have launched it, they've done a lot, by the way. The border guards who were there, and that's why even in this case, they were wide awake when these people came. They know very well that you don't just march into South Africa. In other words, we are now actively managing our borders and actively taking decisions in the interest of our country. And by the way, there's a document on country interest, national interest, in other words, that are being that is being discussed in government about our national interest. But you may also remember, in June last year, during the policy conference of the ruling party, I submitted a new proposal there about new policies on immigration, because I think we ought to change something. And indeed, they were accepted. And they went to the national conference at Nasrec in December, and they were accepted. One of the proposals was that we need to completely overhaul the Citizenship Act of 1995, the Refugee Act of 1998, and the Immigration Act of 2002. We need to overhaul them, and we are making proposals there. For instance, you are aware that South African women are being abused through marriage because we have linked marriage with immigration, where a man comes in, I want to marry you, I love you. And you get happy, excited. Everybody wants to be loved, by the way. And you discover later, after he has got his South African documents in terms of the act, he no longer wants you. And Home Affairs is faced with a situation where women are being divorced in large numbers because they've served the purpose of getting somebody to get documents. So we are saying people must marry for love. And
how
that
are you going
marriage,
to police that, Minister?
That marriage must be, no, we are not, we police it in this manner. Maybe let me put it so. The marriage, your marriage must not link to somebody's immigration status. Your marriage must be regulated by the Marriage Act. It must be about love and nothing else. Immigration status must be mediated through another law that deals only with immigration. Basically, that's what we're trying to say.
Sure.
So because we are making women a target, and I can assure you, some of the stories we get are contributing to GBV. Can you imagine if you get married to a person without your knowledge that basically is for this man to get documentation, and you enter the marriage with all the hope, all of a sudden he doesn't want you, he doesn't know what to do with you, he's going to start abusing you, hoping that maybe you'll run away on your own. And if you don't run away, you'll upgrade abuse and maybe then go to a court of law and divorce. We are getting, we call them this marriage of convenience. We got more than 2,000 of them per annum, these marriages of convenience.
Then, Minister Motsoaledi, while you're doing that, the overhaul of the department itself, I mean, this is something that you've admitted to, you know, in previous times, that you do have elements within the Department of Home Affairs who will take money so that they can sell an ID, sell a visa, sell this and sell that. And so that, you know, you can have these beautiful plans and proposals on hand, but until you've got the right people, South Africa remains vulnerable.
Well, look, I think you need both, because what do you mean by a right person? All over the world, we have got judiciary, we have got crime busters, we have got jails, because there are people who will break the law. So you have got to put up systems to make sure that even if you don't get the right people, well, it's true, firstly get the right people. But how do you know that person? Because there are people where you believe and say, oh, I can't believe this is the one who did this. I'm sure you have said that before, because you thought this was the right person.
No, so, I think maybe, I beg your pardon, I mean in terms of Home Affairs officials, people who are employed by the state to protect South Africa's sovereignty, who take money so that they're able to give other people from outside of the country visas, etc., etc.
No, I understood you, and I know. And I'm sure you are aware we have hired many people. I was just trying to, because your question was about how do you get the right people? And I was trying to say, no matter how you try, because all the senior officials, by the way, in government, not only have Home Affairs, they are vetted by state security, but still they come and do corruption. So all I was saying is we have gone beyond that stage of looking for the right person. We are also putting systems. And by the way, one of the systems is that Home Affairs is the only government department that has got a branch on counter-corruption. Branch meaning a unit headed by a deputy director general, second in charge, on counter-corruption. That's their work. And we've just hired a chief director who was never there before, whose title is about systems. In other words, look at our systems and find the risks and say, but this one, if you do this way, there's a chance of bribe, is risky. Let's change it. That's his work every day when he wakes up, to check where there could be loopholes. And then, thirdly, modernization in terms of digitizing projects, because most of the corruption takes place because of manual systems, which are archaic. Take, for instance, the green barcoded ID. That photo, you can swap it anytime. But when we modernize to the smart card, the photo is digital. They are still trying some plans to still, to find a way to get on the digital photo. But it's not as easy as just swapping. Okay. And that's why we are also digitizing our record. You have heard that we have taken the first group of 2,000 young and unemployed graduates out of the 10,000 we are going to employ to start digitizing our records. And once things are digital, it becomes very difficult to bribe or to steal.
Okay, fair enough. While we have you, if you'll allow me to be opportunistic and find out how the Zimbabwean exemption permit process is going in terms of how many people have applied and how the whole process is going. I know on the sidelines there's court cases, but yes. How is it going generally?
No. Yes, you are right. There are court cases in April, but we are continuing. And what we have picked up, I don't have the figures here because I was not aware that you are going to ambush me. Yes, but what we've realized is that the people who are now applying for what we have asked them to apply for have picked up quite dramatically, because I suspect people were given wrong information, which the media has been giving even after our correction. They say we are expelling Zimbabweans out of South Africa, and there is no document or no sentence ever uttered that we are doing so. All we said is that we can no longer keep them on a temporary documentation forever, temporary, something that was issued right from the beginning, say this is temporary measure until certain things happen, but to become temporary for life. We just said, no, this can't be. We are asking them to migrate and apply for other documentation that allow them to sojourn. And there are 17 types of permits and visas in South Africa. We say you go for one of those. People translate, oh, we no longer want them, we are going to fire them and all that. That's not what we are doing. And because there was a court case, I think some were told that, look, this minister is mad. Don't apply. The court is going to throw this thing out. But some are realizing that, what if? Because as I'm sitting here, you never know what the court of law will say. Even lawyers don't know. If you put 100 lawyers here, they are going to give you as different as 100 opinions about what will happen after a court case. So people realize that they've got to safeguard their future by applying and taking advantage of what is on offer.
There are those, though, who are complaining that ever since this announcement was made, they did go online, they did try, and months later they're still waiting for a status. As online, there's nothing that tells them where their application is at the moment. Are you aware of such cases, and what happens to people if they don't meet the deadline in June?
You remember we extended it. It was supposed to have been in December. Look, when we took this decision, we actually wrote to these people. So it can't be true that they don't know. We wrote to them. Personally, I signed a letter to each one of these 178,000 people involved. We wrote them a letter because we have got their addresses, we have got their files. We also sent them, WhatsApp messages. We also put the same letter on our website. We also sent a copy to the Zimbabwean embassy for those who might go to their embassy to ask. We also met several groups who said they are representing them to clarify the matter and even put addresses and say, if you have got any inquiries, please write to this and that and that and that. So there are two processes now. Those who we are asking to apply for waivers and those who are applying for the real permit. What do we mean by applying for a waiver? When you apply for certain permits, like work visas, scarce skill visas, there are certain requirements that are wanted from anybody. But for this particular group of Zimbabweans, who are giving them a waiver, but they must apply for it. In other words, to say, look, when you apply for such and such a document, you need to go to the Department of Labor and obtain this document first. Please, waiver that. Give me a right of waiver so that I don't have to go to the Department of Labor because I'm already here. And we are issuing those waivers. I'm signing them every day. And say, yes, you are already here. You can apply for that visa. You don't have to follow those steps. We are giving you a waiver. Those are the ones that are signed by me. Then from there, after getting the waiver, they apply without the requisite document. What more can a human being do?
Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, thank you for your indulgence and thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thank
Home
you.
Affairs Minister, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi.